ambitious and complex as Change of Heart, is almost like making a short feature film, and it's something that many amateur film clubs might approach with some trepidation. The director of Change of Heart was Oscar Riesel, who was a very, very experienced filmmaker. He'd already made a name for himself in the amateur film movement with a lot of short and very well-constructed, well-directed, well-photographed films. And he joined our society, I guess, in the late 1970s. And he was a superb asset because he was a very thorough, a very rigorous guy, and he really knew about filmmaking, about cinematography, about lighting, about the importance of sound, about the importance of storyboarding a film. So all those elements were a great contribution to the club. He was a serious guy, but he did have a sense of humour as well, which of course was marvellous. But on set, it was very, very structured, and he knew exactly what he wanted.
That's not good enough. He snuffs it. All the information will go with him. How do you propose to keep him alive?
There is a way, but we'll have to be very lucky, and I'll have to work very fast.
That's what we're paying you for. Whatever you want, you'll have. You'll have the best there is. Just tell us what you want. Boy, no slip-ups.
It was one of our most ambitious dramas, a 30-minute drama. The script was long for an amateur film, but with storyboarding, which Oscar worked on from the original script, the result was that for each scene, each location, he knew, and the rest of the crew knew, exactly what camera positions we would require. We were able to get multiple angles, long shots, medium shots, close-ups from just one camera position, one lighting position, and we got a huge amount of production out of any one day. If you look at the last scene of Change of Heart, where it's at an airfield and there's a helicopter, you might just wonder, how could an amateur film club like Finchley Cine Society get such an amazing scene produced? Well, it was about two elements. One is that our producer, Edward Aegis, just knew how to find these things, and he went to Leavesden Aerodrome. He met a chap called Barney, very nice American guy, who owned a beautiful helicopter, and he somehow persuaded him to join us for a day's filming, and we were actually able to not only film him in his helicopter on the ground, but it even took our cameraman David Blundell and myself in the helicopter to achieve the final aerial shot. It was amazing, and it was the sort of thing that only a persuasive guy like Edward Aegis could manage to do. The hospital sequence in Change of Heart is of course at the core of the film. After the accident, the main actor is taken to a hospital. Oscar Riesel found a disused hospital very near where he lived in the Northwood Pinner area. And together with Edward Aegis, our producer, they managed to persuade the people who owned this now empty building to loan it to us for a long weekend. As a result, we had the whole hospital interior, including the corridors, the operating theatre, a room for the patient. Fortunately, again, at that time, we managed to get the reception area of the old Barnet General Hospital for half a day, one weekend. If you watch the film, you'll see the actress go into a reception. That's actually Barnet Hospital, but as she goes further into the hospital, that's in fact the other hospital, the disused one, that we got access to. There was a lot of pre-production that happened during 1984, the script writing, the storyboarding, pulling together the actors and other roles that were needed for the film. The shooting happened for several months, mostly over weekends, during the spring of 1985. The editing of Change of Heart was a fantastic experience to work closely with Oscar, the director. We hired an editing suite in Chalk Farm for a week during the summer of 1985, just after the shooting had finished, and we were presented with 3,000 feet of 16mm film and a lot of soundtrack that had been recorded that all had to be synced up and then cut. And during that week, we worked very, very long hours to get the edit at a rough cut stage. We then showed it to a number of people who were involved in the film and got some feedback. And it was quite clear that we needed to even further tighten it and sharpen some of the edits, and that we did during the autumn of the same year. So by late autumn, we actually had the final edit produced, which was well over a year from the beginning of the project. And then the next big stage was the soundtracking. The soundtrack for Change of Heart was obviously key to the enjoyment and the success of the film. After we'd put all the dialogue together, we then put various sound effects together and so on. We took it to a sound editing theatre in Shepherd's Bush that was normally used by the BBC. And there the real magic happened, because then we had the benefit of professional sound engineers, and they said, do you know what, on that hospital scene we need a little bit of atmosphere here. In the airfield scene we need some background sounds of aircraft. And gradually they brought all those elements together to support everything we'd done. And that really is part of the magic of Change of Heart, how the soundtrack just feels so real